The rain poured heavily that night on Agu Street, beating against the old zinc roof like angry drums inside one of the cramped rooms. The cries of a woman struggled to rise above the storm. Tebena, please not again, Nkemdili begged, shielding her face with trembling hands, but her husband's voice roared through the noise. You think I don't see how you greet that traitor every morning? You think I'm a fool? Before she could speak, a harsh slap sent her spinning. She hit the wall, breath leaving her body in a gasp. The thunder outside clapped as if to mock her pain. He didn't stop. He never did. Door neighbors shouted. He said, you people should mind your business. Tebena, leave your wife, you and kill person. But one night, when he came out shirtless, eyes red with drink, and barked, she's my wife, anybody way enter this house, I go break him head. Everyone kept quiet after that. Now, each night, the whole street knew one. Tebena's anger began from the sound of furniture crashing, the muffled cries, the silence that followed. Nkemdili used to be the light of the compound, smiling, cooking for children, sharing jokes, but the light was gone. Her laughter disappeared. Even the color in her eyes faded. Some said Tebena changed after he lost his job at the motor parts shop. Others said it was pride, that evil spirit that tells a man he owns his wife's life. That night, when Tebena finally slept drunk, snoring loudly, Nkemdili crawled to the corner of the room. A single candle flickered. She stared at her reflection in a cracked mirror, one eye swollen. Lip bleeding, tears rolled down her face as she whispered to herself, God, if I stay, I will die. But if I leave, maybe I can still find myself outside. Thunder rumbled again inside. Something deep within her, something small but fierce, began to burn. The beginning of bruises had also become the beginning of awakening. The morning after the storm, the compound was quiet to quiet. A few neighbors peeked through their windows, pretending to sweep the corridor, pretending not to notice the woman who moved slowly, her face wrapped with a scarf, her body stiff from last night's beating. Nkemdili fetched water from the well as if nothing had happened. Her hands shook, but her eyes were calm. To calm Mama Chinier, her neighbor, called out softly, Nkem, my daughter, how long you go continue like this? That man go kill you one day. Nkemdili smiled weakly. Mama, I'm fine. He was just angry, that's all. The old woman sighed. Angry every day. That one no be anger again, now wickedness. But Nkemdili only shook her head and said, if I leave now, what will people say? They'll laugh. They'll say I couldn't keep my marriage. My mother warned me not to bring shame to her name. She turned away before her tears could fall. That evening, Tebena returned home earlier than usual. His face looked calm, almost soft, as if he regretted what he'd done. He brought her roasted fish and said, take, eat. I don't want trouble today. For a moment she saw the man she once loved, the one who used to carry her bag after church, the one who promised to build her a shop. But just as quickly, his voice changed again. Next time, don't make me angry, he said, chewing noisily. I'm a man, Gem. I need respect. You should be grateful I still provide for you. She nodded silently. In her heart, she wanted to scream, but her mind whispered, be quiet, endure. They'll say you failed if you leave. Days turned to weeks. The bruises faded, then returned. Sometimes he would hit her because the soup was too salty. Sometimes because she forgot to charge his phone. Every night she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the world outside, about freedom, and the heavy voice of her mother echoing in her mind. A good wife endures. No woman leaves her husband's house and finds peace. So Nkemdili stayed. She stayed through the shouting, through the slaps, through the silence that swallowed her joy. But something in her spirit was dying. Even the neighbors stopped knocking now. They simply said, now so marriage be. Who we go advise way go here. And Tebena, confident that she would never leave, became worse. The man who once feared losing her now felt powerful, unstoppable. Until one night something happened that would shake the entire street. The morning sun rose slowly over Agu Street, washing the compound with a golden calm that didn't reach inside. Tebena's house, Nkemdili was already sweeping the front yard when Mama Yuju, their next-door neighbor, greeted softly. Come. Good morning, oh, how body? Before she could answer, Tabena's voice boomed from inside the house. Nkemdili, you day gossip again, drop that broom and come inside now. Everyone turned to look. Nkemdili's hands froze mid-air. She dropped the broom and quietly entered the house. Her heart beating fast. Mama Yuju sighed him. That man go kill that girl one day inside. Tabena glared at her. You don't have work to do. You think marriage is for you to stand outside smiling with neighbors. I was only greeting her. Slap, shut up. You talk too much. Nkemdili held her cheek, tears burning her eyes. He hated her not because she had done anything wrong, but because her quietness reminded him of everything he wasn't anymore. He had lost his job months ago. The bar owner where he once worked now hired a younger man. The only thing Tabena still controlled was her, and now there was someone else. Adara. Adara was everything Nkemdili was not. Bold, flashy, loud. She wore perfume that filled the street before she even arrived. She laughed at his jokes, called him my king, and told him he deserved better. He believed her every evening. He would dress neatly and tell Nkemdili, I'm going to see a friend. He'd spray too much cologne, iron his shirt twice, and leave without eating her food sometimes. She would wait up for him, but he never came back early. Sometimes she'd find traces of lipstick on his collar when she asked. He would say, so you now check my shirt. You and I, and she would keep quiet. The neighbors noticed. Everyone knew, but no one said a word anymore. Mama Yuju would whisper to another woman, Adara. She's the one making that man worse since she came into his life. The beating has increased. One afternoon, Nkemdili saw them together. She had gone to buy tomatoes at the junction when she saw Tabena's motorbike parked under a mango tree. Adara was sitting behind him, her hands around his waist, laughing loudly as if the world belonged to them. Nkemdili froze. Her heart felt like it stopped for a moment. Their eyes met. Tabena saw her, but instead of shame, he smirked. Go home, he barked. Before I disgrace you here. People in the market turned to look. Nkemdili turned around and walked away slowly, her vision blurry with tears. That night, she didn't cry, she didn't speak, she just sat quietly by the window, staring at the moon, and for the first time, she thought not of leaving but of revenge. That evening, the air in August Street smelled of roasted meat and cheap beer. The small beer parlor near the junction was full of laughter, loud music, and the clinking of bottles. Nkemdili had gone to buy gari for supper when she saw him. Tabena, her husband, sitting at the corner of the beer parlor, laughing loudly with Adara. Adara was leaning on his shoulder, her red lipstick right under the yellow bulb. He poured her another drink and whispered something that made her throw her head back in laughter. For a long moment, Nkemdili stood still. The world around her faded. So this was what made him happy. Was this why he came home every night smelling of alcohol and perfume? Was this why he treated her like she was nothing? Her heart pounded. So I'm the one suffering, and he's out here drinking with another woman. She walked home quietly, her face expressionless, her soul heavy. Later that night, when Tabena returned home, his shirt half unbuttoned, his breath thick with beer, she faced him at the door. Tabena, she said softly, is this what makes you happy now? That woman in the beer parlor. Is this why you treat me like this? He froze, then he laughed a cold, bitter laugh. So you're spying on me now, he said. You think you can question me? Who are you to talk to me like that? Tabena, please, she said, trembling. I just want to understand. Slap. The sound echoed through the room. Before she could steady herself, he pushed her against the wall. Don't ever mention that woman's name again, he shouted. He beat her that night worse than he ever had before. The sound of blows mixed with her muffled cries. Outside, the neighbors stood silently, afraid. Everyone had seen too much. The next morning, Tabena left early. His face blank, he went to look for work at the motor park, leaving Nkemdili lying weak on the floor. Hours passed. She sat up slowly, her body aching, her head spinning. Her eyes fell on her small travel bag. Under the bed, she whispered to herself, this man will kill me one day. I can't stay anymore. Even if the world talks, I'll leave with shaking hands. She began to pack her things. Wrapper, Bible, the small framed photo from their wedding. But just as she stood up, Her vision blurred, her knees gave way, and she collapsed when neighbors heard the sound. They rushed in. Mama Yuju, come quick. And come down faint as they carried her to the hospital in a hurry, shouting and praying along the way after what felt like hours. The doctor came out. He looked around and said gently, "Who brought this woman here?" Mama Yuju stepped forward. "Doctor, we are her neighbors." "What happened?" The doctor sighed. "She's weak, badly bruised, but she's also pregnant." "Maybe 2 months," everyone gasped. "Pregnant," Mama Yuju repeated. She didn't even know when Nkemdili woke up. The doctor told her the same thing, her eyes filled with tears. "Pregnant," she whispered. "How? I didn't even know." He nodded. "You must rest. The baby is still very early. Any more stress, and you could lose it." That night, lying on the hospital bed, Nkemdili made a new decision. She couldn't leave anymore, not yet, she thought. "If I go now, people will say I ran away pregnant. My child will grow up without a father. I'll endure just until the baby comes." She turned to the window, tears falling silently. The moonlight touched her face softly, but her eyes held no peace. Little did she know this pregnancy would not save her marriage. It would only reveal a truth that would shake everything. 2 days after the hospital, Nkemdili returned home quietly, moving slowly, her body still sore. She had a new secret inside her, one she thought would change everything. That evening, when Tabena came back from the motor park, his shirt stained with sweat and dust, she gathered her courage. She stood by the door, hands clasped, her heart beating hard. "Tabena," she said softly. He grunted, already loosening his belt. "I have something to tell you." He didn't look at her. "What is it?" She swallowed hard. "I'm pregnant." For a moment, he froze. His eyes flicked up at her, then he shrugged. "Okay, go and make me something to eat." Nkemdili stared at him, her mouth opening, but no words came. She thought he would smile, hold her, say sorry, but he just sat down, scrolling through his cheap phone. That night, he still raised his voice. That night, he still pushed her aside when she spoke. The baby inside her didn't change. His hard days turned into weeks. Nkemdili's belly began to show slightly. She moved slower now, and she stopped going to the market, but the beatings didn't stop. Sometimes he'd shout, "You're using pregnancy to control me now, Abi." Neighbors whispered. Mama Yuju came one afternoon with a bowl of soup. "My daughter," she said softly, "your life is more important. Leave, even if you're pregnant. Nothing bad in being a single mother. This child needs you alive." Another neighbor, Chuck, said, "We can help you. We can hide you until you're safe. Just go. This man go kill you one day." But Nkemdili shook her head, tears falling. "I don't want to give birth to a child without a father. People will laugh. They'll say I couldn't keep my home. My mother will disown me." She pressed her hand to her belly. "I will endure for my baby." Mama Yuju grabbed her hands. "What of you? You're not a stone. If you die, who will raise this child? Think well." But Nkemdili only smiled weakly and said, "God will protect me." That night, lying awake, she stared at the ceiling. Her hand rested on her belly. She whispered, "I'm staying for you, my baby. I'm staying for you." But deep inside, she knew this wasn't safe. Tinthus was a waiting game with death. And somewhere in the dark corner of her heart, another thought began to rise, quiet but sharp. "If I survive this, one day everyone will know the truth about Tabena Arins." The nights had become longer. Tabena now stayed out late, sometimes not coming home at all. The smell of beer and cheap perfume would follow him when he finally returned, if he returned at all. Nkemdili often sat by the window, one hand on her growing belly, whispering softly, "God, what kind of love is this? Should I leave? But what will people say?" Tears always answered her questions. She would cry quietly into her pillow, biting her lips to stop the sound. The bruises were fading slower these days. Her body was weaker, but every morning, she still cooked for him. She still called him my husband. She still believed maybe, just maybe, he would change. That night, he came home late again. The door creaked open. The smell of alcohol filled the room. "Tabena," she said softly, "where are you coming from? You left me here all day. You didn't even check on me. You know I'm pregnant." Before she could finish, his eyes darkened. So now you want to monitor me? Abby, no, she said. Tears in her voice. Zini, just want to know why you treat me like this. What did I do wrong? He stepped closer. You talk too much to Benna, please. I'm carrying your baby, don't, but it was too late. He hit her once. Twice his rage blind. When she fell, he kicked her. His boot striking her stomach. Her cry was sharp, short, and then silence. Her body went still. The pot on the fire fell with a crash. The room smelled of smoke and fear when he saw blood on the floor. His hands began to shake. He froze, staring at her motionless body. Then he did the unthinkable. He walked out. He locked the door behind him and left for work as if nothing had happened. Hours later, neighbors noticed smoke and the smell of burnt food. They forced the door open and what they saw froze their hearts. Nkemdili lay on the floor, pale and still. Blood staining her wrapper. They rushed her to the hospital, shouting and praying. But the doctor came out after a few minutes and shook his head. I'm sorry. He said quietly, she's gone. What about the baby, Mama? You cried. The doctor sighed deeply. The baby didn't make it either. The corridor fell silent. Only the sound of sobbing filled the air. By the time Benna got to the motor park that morning, police were already waiting. Benna arranged. One of them called yes before he could finish. Handcuffs clicked around his wrists. Your wife is dead. The officer said coldly, you're under arrest. He froze, his heart pounding. What? No, I didn't mean to, but it was too late. He was dragged to the station. Days turned to months, 2 years. The court found him guilty of murder of his wife and unborn child. And 8 years later, the same man who once thought he owned his wife's life stood before the judge, trembling as the final words were spoken. You are hereby sentenced to death by hanging. He broke down crying. What have I done, God? What have I done? But it was too late. The people of August Street never forgot Nkemdili Arins. They buried her and her unborn child together, side by side on her grave. They placed a simple wooden cross that read, she stayed for love, she died for silence. And from that day, whenever a woman cried in the night, the neighbors no longer said it's their family matter. They said we must not lose. Lesson from the story: sometimes God will not come down from heaven to advise you. He will use people around you, your friend, your neighbor, your pastor, even a stranger, to warn you, to open your eyes, to help you escape danger. But many times our ignorance and pride make us blind to his voice. When God speaks through people, we call it gossip. When he sends warning signs, we call it normal marriage problem. And before we realize it, the same thing God tried to save us from becomes the thing that destroys us. Another strong truth is this: what will people say has sent more people to their graves than sickness ever did. Many women stay in broken homes, crying in silence, just because they fear what others will say if they walk away. But the bitter truth is, when you die trying to please the world, the same people you were trying to please will still move on with their lives. You did not come to this life to please anybody. You came to fulfill your purpose, to live in peace, to live for your God, and to live long enough to raise the destiny He placed in your hands. If your peace, your safety, and your life are being destroyed, remember, silence is not love. Endurance is not always faith. When God shows you signs, listen. When people warn you, don't ignore it, because sometimes the voice you refuse to hear may be the last one God sends before tragedy happens. May every woman reading this story find the courage to choose peace over pain and wisdom over shame. Benna's life is a warning to every man who lets anger, pride, and ego destroy what love once built. He had a beautiful wife, a peaceful home, and blessings waiting for him, but he allowed his insecurity and temper to turn him into a monster. He thought being a man meant control and fear, but real strength is in patience and love. He thought saying sorry made him weak, but it was his silence and arrogance that made him lose everything: his wife, his unborn child, and his own freedom. God gave him so many signs: the neighbors who shouted, leave her alone; the times she cried and begged him to stop; even the quiet nights when his conscience whispered that he was wrong. But he ignored them all until it was too late. A real man protects, he doesn't destroy. Anger lasts a moment, regret can last a lifetime when you let pride rule you. It will lead you to ruin. God will not come down to warn you. He uses people and signs. If you ignore them, you'll face the consequence alone. So I want to eat opportunity to tell you that Jesus loves you and he said he's coming very soon. Me and you don't know when it's coming. He can come at any time. We did not expect it. Is now that is not yet come that we have the chance and the opportunity to give our life to him, accept him as our Lord and personal Savior. No matter how far you are gone with your sin, he will still forgive you. Give your life to him today. He's waiting. Thank you for watching. If you learned from this story, don't forget to subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next story.